Hello, and welcome to the RACI Intermediate Holdings 401k and Financial Wellness webinar. My name is Jack Duffy, and I'm a retirement plan analyst here at 12 Points. My main role here is assisting plan sponsors with the day-to-day operations of the 401k plan, as well as helping to ensure that the plan remains compliant with both DOL and IRS regulations. I also regularly speak with participants and offer advice on their financial future. A little bit more on 12 Points as a firm. We're located in Concord, Massachusetts, and we are the investment advisors for the 401k plan. So at the plan level, we're going to be providing quality assurance and benchmarking all fees paid by the plan to make sure that the fees charged by vendors are in line with the market and no one's being overcharged. At an employee level, we're here to provide conflict-free advice to you. We are what is known as an fiduciary advisor. And in the firm, we like to coin that as the F word, because we hear the term fiduciary thrown around all the time nowadays. But what it essentially means is that all recommendations made by us must be done so with your best intentions in mind. We are legally not allowed to make any recommendations if they would benefit us, benefit any of the vendors like John Hancock that work with your plan. All recommendations need to be done so with your best interest in mind. As well as providing conflict-free advice to you, we are also going to be providing financial wellness. One form of financial wellness that we'd like to quickly highlight are our webinars and newsletters. Each month, you'll receive a newsletter from 12 Points, including market insight, financial wellness tips, and a brief overview of some of the charities that we work closely with in their events coming up. There will also be an invitation to our webinar in these newsletters. These webinars are not going to be just 401k specific and are going to cover a wide variety of financial topics. Some of these will be planning for college. We had one recently that was titled The Sandwich Generation, Caring for Children and Aging Parents. And next month, we are going to be having a webinar called Life, Death, and Disability. Only one of those is under your control. The featured speakers at this webinar are going to be our own Chris Cahill and Brad Kadelsky from Brookfield Insurance Partners. Each month, we try to bring on a professional, an expert in the industry from outside of 12 Points to give you a more holistic view of the topic that we're covering. We will also be offering rapid review sessions, a quick 15 to 30-minute conversation with one of our financial planners on staff. These are complimentary and a part of our services. There will be no additional charge to either yourself or to RACI as a firm. Of course, being 401k investment advisors, we would love to talk about your 401k on these rapid review sessions, but they do not need to be exclusively about your 401k and their investments. We'd be happy to just sit down and talk to you about whatever you may have on your mind and answer whatever questions you may have at the time. On screen now, you can see an example of a few of the topics that we cover typically in a one-on-one meeting. These will typically be 401k enrollment, Roth versus pre-tax, current 401k allocation. We would take a quick risk tolerance questionnaire to assess how conservative or aggressive you like to be in your investments. And we can compare your current allocation to the results of that questionnaire and see if your investments are lining up with your goals. Like I said before, it does not need to be one of these topics listed on your screen right now. It can be any question that you have about your own personal finances. Another resource offered by 12 Points is going to be the 12 Points Financial Wellness Portal powered by GoalPath. This is going to be a great way to aggregate all of your outside accounts in one place. We're going to be going over a couple of different financial wellness tips later on in the webinar. But this is an awesome tool for making sure that all of your accounts are in one place and getting a real high-level view of your financial situation in any given time. So next, we're just going to do a quick refresher on the RACI 401k plan. So as I've mentioned throughout this video, we act as the investment advisor, 12 Points does, and the record keeper or custodian for the plan is going to be John Hancock. The record keeper is essentially the place where all of the money is stored. So after the contributions are taken out of your paycheck, they are sent to John Hancock, where they record all contributions and track growth. Eligibility for the RACI Intermediate Holdings 401k plan is 6 months of service, and you must be age 21. After you have worked for 6 months at RACI Intermediate Holding, you will be automatically enrolled at a rate of 3% on the first day of the next month. You can opt out of automatic enrollment if you would like, or you can increase the contribution made. Another great benefit offered by RACI is going to be the employer match, which is 25% up to 6% of your deferrals. What this means is that for every 4% that you contribute, RACI will contribute an additional percent on your behalf. It is important to note that all employer match is on a 4-year graded vesting schedule. So what this means is that after your first year working at RACI Intermediate Holdings, you will be entitled to 25% of the match that has been given to you. After 2 years, you're entitled to 50%, 3 years, you're entitled to 75%, and after 4 years, you're entitled to the whole match that has been made on your behalf. Contributions can be made as both pre-tax or Roth, and we would be happy to discuss the difference between both of them on a one-on-one call with you. The contribution limit for 2023 is $22,500 if you are under the age of 50. If you are over the age of 50, the limit is going to be $30,000 for all employee contributions. This is going to be the original limit of $22,500, plus an additional $7,500 that you are allowed to make in the form of a catch-up contribution. If you have any questions as to what type of contribution you should be making, whether it be pre-tax or Roth, if you're investing enough, we would be happy to sit down with you in a one-on-one conversation and talk more in depth about that. All right, now we're going to cover a couple of benefits of the 401k plan other than just being a great vehicle for saving for retirement. The first one is going to be the employer match offered by the firm. During the pandemic, a lot of employers got rid of their match, and a lot of the employers that we work with today still do not have a match. This is an excellent benefit offered by RACI. They do not benefit from this in any way. It is simply a way to reward good saving habits in the plan. There are going to be tax advantages to saving in the 401k. We talked about pre-tax contributions on the last slide. Essentially, those contributions are taken off your paycheck before they are taxed, and then you are taxed at the rate that is your income minus your contribution. So your taxes are actually lower when you make a contribution to the 401k plan, and you defer those taxes to when you take the money out of the plan. That money is not taxed until it's removed from the 401k plan, and it is going to be taxed at the current tax rate. The 401k plan offers seamless saving habits. I myself, sitting on the other side of this computer, although this is what I do for work, am not the greatest saver. My 401k offers me the opportunity to put some money aside. I never see it. I don't think about it. It just sits in my 401k, accumulating growth. And then when I retire, I will have a pool of money waiting for me to enjoy the freedom that I should in retirement. The 401k, as I mentioned before, is going to have a Roth option. Typically, there are income limits and contribution limits to a traditional Roth IRA. The contribution limits for 2023 in a Roth IRA are $6,500. The contribution limits for a Roth 401k are going to be that $22,500 for people that we talked about just before, and $30,000 for people over 50 making that catch-up contribution. You can make your entire yearly contribution in the form of Roth, which is an awesome option. Of course, you don't get the benefit of deferring the tax until you make that withdrawal. But again, we would be happy to speak with you in a one-on-one conversation to compare the strengths and weaknesses of Roth contributions and pre-tax contributions. Another benefit, hopefully no one on this will need this benefit, but it is there if you do. It's a shelter from creditors. So this money would not be in your name. It is in the name of the company. So if for whatever reason you are having assets seized, your money in your 401k cannot be touched. And again, you guys have us working on your plan to ensure the best fees, the best rates on all of your vendors, as well as providing advice and monitoring of those funds. So this is personally my favorite slide on this entire presentation. I remember seeing it for the first time and my jaw hit the floor when I first looked at these numbers. So we're going to be comparing two people in this instance, Joe and Phil. Joe and Phil both graduated from college at the same time and both got a job at the same time. Joe, right out of college, decides, you know what? I know how important saving for retirement is. I'm going to start right now. And for the next 10 years, Joe contributes $5,000 per year into his retirement account. And then for whatever reason it may be, Joe has a family, Joe has more expenses, maybe he was living at home for those 10 years and now he's moved out. Joe cannot make those contributions to his retirement plan, so he stops. At the same time, 10 years out of school, Phil begins his retirement contributions, contributing the same $5,000 a year for the next 40 years. Phil got out of college, decided, you know what? Retirement's very far away. I'm going to live my life a little, enjoy, go out, have a good time, and I can focus on retirement savings down the line. So you can see here in this chart, Joe contributed $5,000 a year for 10 years. He contributed a total of $50,000. Phil, on the other hand, contributed $5,000 a year for 40 years. Phil ends up with $200,000 contributed to his 401k plan personally. Through the power of compounding and just the power of time in the market, assuming normal rate of returns around 8%, Joe would have more money than Phil. And it's not a small amount of money. It's almost $300,000. So the power of compounding cannot be understated. Anyone younger who may be listening to it, time is the most valuable thing when it comes to investing. And it doesn't matter how much you're putting in. If you can, if you're on the younger side, we really recommend that you do just try to get at least some type of contribution in and take advantage of the power of compounding. As I had just talked about, the sooner you start, the better. The more time you have, the more you're able to take advantage of the power of compounding. We recommend contributing between 10 and 15% of your income, which is ideal for preparing for retirement. 10 to 15% seems like a huge chunk of your income per paycheck. But what's great about this is the matching contribution offered by RACI, as well as the power of those pre-tax contributions. That 10%, that 9%, whatever you may be contributing, will be felt a lot less on the back end of your paycheck because all of those taxes are deferred until you take the money out. Another great advantage of a 401k plan that we didn't really cover in that last slide is the ability to roll money into the RACI plan. And there are a lot of advantages to this. There are potential cost savings, like we have been harping on throughout this entire webinar. We are here to ensure that all fees paid by the plan are in line with the market rate. We can't guarantee that with any other 401k plan. There are many that we look at that are paying exorbitant fees. And we would be happy to get on the phone with you and analyze the costs of both plans and see if it would be advantageous for you to bring your money to the RACI plan. Another benefit of rolling your money in is just keeping all of your finances organized in one place. Maybe you've been jumping around from job to job, whatever it may be, whatever the reason may be, you might have money in a couple different 401k plans, which might have different asset allocations across the board. And frankly, it just gets really hard to keep track of your money when it's in a bunch of different places. So by putting it all in the RACI plan, you're able to access all of the models and advice that we have and offer, as well as knowing that the money that's in the plan is working at the cheapest it can be. This is going to be one of my primary functions here at 12 Points, is assisting employees when it comes to analyzing and making the decision on a rollover. And we would be happy to help you with any questions that you may have on this topic. Another important thing to note in this webinar is the beneficiary information that is required on John Hancock's website. It's extremely important to fill out this information online and make sure that your savings end up with the right person if something is to happen to you. If you're married, your spouse must be your primary beneficiary unless they sign off on a form saying otherwise. If you are not, then your beneficiary can be whoever you like. We're going to cover a couple of actions to avoid when working with your 401k plan, the first of which, taking out a loan. Of course, there are going to be instances where a loan is required from your 401k plan. They're there for a reason, and they can be very useful in some situations. We're going to cover a couple. Oftentimes, people look at a 401k loan as a great option in a tight situation because essentially you're paying yourself back the interest. All the money that you pay back on the loan is put into your retirement account where it can begin to gain value and get to work for you. But what's tough when you really look at how the money is taxed on a loan, the money that you're paying back the loan with has already been taxed. And then it will be taxed again when you take it out of the 401k plan as if it had gone in as pre-tax money. So realistically, you're paying twice the amount of taxes on that loan, on that interest payment that you would be elsewhere. Typically, it's a lot easier to find a loan with an interest rate that is going to be less than 2 times the taxes that you will be paying, or twice the taxes that you will be paying on this money. Another thing to avoid when you're working with your 401k plan is going to be taking a distribution. So the money in your 401k plan is designed to be put there, and it is designed to stay there until retirement and gain value and build up some type of retirement saving for you to draw from in retirement. So the government tries to advise against people taking distributions. In the event that you do need to take a distribution, which does happen, there are going to be things that come up, much like with loans, that are going to require a distribution. This money will be taxed, and a penalty will be applied to this money because you are taking it from the plan early. We talked about other companies, other 401k plans that you might have with prior employers. This is extremely common in our industry. And abandoned 401ks is a massive problem that we deal with all the time. And that's what's great about something like GoalPath, something like rolling your money into the RACI plan. You know where everything is all at once. You have a good idea of how your money is moving and what it looks like in the market. And I touched on this a little bit earlier as well, but we can also take a look. You might be a set it and forget it type of investor. You started investing 25 years ago and you're making those same investments now. That asset allocation might have worked for you 25 years ago, but it might not be in line with what your goals are today. And we would be happy to sit down and take a look at that with you. We want to avoid emotional investing. We saw a lot of this back in 2022 with the market dipping, people panicking, selling. This is a long-term project. Your 401k, your retirement isn't going to happen tomorrow. It is a long-term process that you're working towards. So you want to make sure that all decisions that you're making with your 401k are thought out and practical. And the last thing you're going to want to avoid is stopping contributions. As I've been harping on throughout this webinar, if you have one takeaway, it's that time is money in your 401k plan. And the more time you can have this money exposed to the market, the more you can prepare yourself for retirement. Next, we're going to cover a couple of financial wellness tips. Here at 12 Points, we like to think of financial planning in terms of like orders of operation. And our first step after you start contributing to your 401k plan is to establish an emergency fund. An emergency fund is typically 3 to 6 months of net expenses set aside for an unexpected emergency, be that injury, loss of job, what have you. We recommend for a 2-income household having about 6 months of living expenses set aside, and for a 1-person household having about 3 months set aside. Right now, October 2023, interest rates are very high, which across the board is typically a bad thing. But in the case of emergency funds, it actually makes a very, very powerful tool very viable, and that being high yield savings accounts. In low interest rate environments, the rate that you're going to get on a high interest savings account is not going to be that high. But with interest rates being as high as they are, you're able to get a very competitive rate. One that we recommend commonly is Marcus with Goldman Sachs. But it is very likely that your bank or credit card provider already has a high interest savings account. The next thing we're going to want to cover is insurance. Insurance has been almost blackballed in our industry in the past couple of years, but it's still a very, very important part of your financial plan. Insurance, much like the emergency fund that we just talked about, is there to protect you from further unplanned events. A couple of types of insurance that you may already have, and if you do not, you may want to look into: life, disability, health, and long-term care insurance. Here at 12 Points, we are not insurance brokers. We do not sell insurance. We have plenty of experience in the insurance space and would be happy to review your current insurance policies and see if there may not be a more holistic approach to insurance that we could take on one of these one-on-one calls. The last financial wellness tip we're going to cover today is budgeting. We cannot begin to express how important budgeting is to the entirety of your financial wellness. A budget allows you to see a high-level view of where your money is going and what you're spending on each week, each month, each year. A budget allows us to see how much you can realistically put and defer into your 401k plan. And having a budget can help to maintain a cohesive financial wellness strategy. One tip that we like to give when it comes to finance or budgeting is a $0 budget strategy, or giving every dollar a job. Essentially, what this means is you assign a task to each dollar that you receive each paycheck, whether that be to bills, whether that be to debt payments. I'm going to put some of it into savings, and some of it I'm just going to keep off to the side to have a fun weekend. As long as you have allocated each dollar and understand where it's going to be spent, you're already on the right step to creating a great budget and a solid financial future. I'd like to thank everybody for listening today. If you have any questions on any of the content covered, please direct those emails to jack@12points.com. It's going to be 12 points spelled out. And I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.